for joining us today. This is Financially Speaking with your host, me, Stephanie Sievers. And this podcast is brought to you by AltaOne Federal Credit Union, the best credit union in Southern California, according to me. So today we will be discussing financial hardships and how to overcome them, which brings me to today's guests. Welcome, Jessie Garrison with GreenPath Financial Wellness. How are you doing today, ma'am?
Great. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
I am excited to have you here because I think this is a wonderful topic that so many people want to know about, and maybe they don't always want to ask about. So I think it's great that we get to chat, because I was looking up some numbers, right? And I found out that Americans owe $986 billion on credit cards, which is surpassing the pre-pandemic high of what was already $927 billion. That is like mind-blowing.
It's a lot of money.
So much money. And we owe like almost $11.9 trillion in mortgages, $1.5 trillion in vehicle loans, and $1.6 trillion in student loans. Just like imagine what all of that debt is doing. And so the average consumer debt in America is really, quite frankly, it's on the rise. And so are delinquency rates, as more people are becoming 30 days or more delinquent on their loan obligations. So really, I feel like right now, Americans are really feeling the pain. So what's going on? What are your thoughts about this? What are y'all seeing?
Yes, we're seeing a lot of people calling into GreenPath with the same type of situations that you just explained, a high or an increase of credit card debt. And unfortunately, credit cards have one of the highest interest rates too. So now you have these high balances, high interest rates. And so people are struggling to figure out how to make ends meet with the way that the economy is changing, just the interest rates going up and inflation. And so we're getting a lot of people that are calling to ask for help on how to manage their debt.
Well, yeah. So let's talk about that debt, right? I mean, I feel like it affects everyone. So you're like, who is in debt? The answer would be, well, everyone is in debt, right? And so I did some research, and the non-mortgage debt by age group. So the largest category of the age group is that 40 to 49-year-olds. And on average, they have about $27,800 in debt. And so I'm like, okay, well, you're at that 40-year-olds, you've been out buying things, maybe you've been living your life. And but the next highest age group is going down. It goes younger. So it's that 30 to 39 age group where they're carrying about $26,500 in debt. But what I found really shocking was the 18 to 29-year-olds. Right? Like this group is also in debt at like $12,800. And you're talking about people who are just like right out of high school, starting their life. Maybe they're going to college, or maybe they're not going into college, but it's really tough, I would think, to really get a good launch if you're already launching with this weight, this debt that you're carrying, which then over the next, up until you're 50, just keeps growing. So what can we do about this? Like, what are you seeing that maybe that we can help out with this?
So one thing that GreenPath does is a national nonprofit organization, is we're going to be able to talk to you and help you understand where you currently are, if you do or you don't have debt, find out what some of your financial goals are, and help you to be that bridge to create that path to financial wellness. So if your goal is to pay off debt, we can help you understand all of the pros and cons of all the different options to pay off debt. So maybe you want to look into, you have credit card debts, you want to do a consolidation loan. Maybe you had a hardship, you have a reduced amount of income, so there might be something like settlement or bankruptcy that is looking like it's an option that you have to do. One option that we specialize in here at GreenPath is called a debt management plan. And the debt management plan is not like a settlement, and it's different than bankruptcy in the fact that we do pay the full amount of debt back. However, we work with creditors to get better debt terms. So as you mentioned, credit cards, they typically have high interest rates. So what we can do is work with the credit card companies and get that interest rate reduced. And then that monthly minimum payment is reduced, and that might help balance your budget. And typically we can help you pay off that debt faster than you can do on your own. So then if you can pay off the debt, now you can put money into savings, and now you might be able to achieve other dreams of yours to not only be debt free, but maybe you want to buy a house, maybe you want to buy a car, maybe you want to go back to school. Maybe you want to pay for a child's college education. Maybe you want to have a child. Who knows? It's all of the dreams can come true if you don't have that debt hanging over your head. And like me, when I graduated college, I had $35,000 in credit card debt. So I know and understand it's overwhelming and hard to deal with. When you're graduating college, you don't know where you're going to work or how you're going to buy lunch next week, let alone pay the student loans and the credit card debt, find a job, find a place to live. So no matter where you are in your own financial wellness journey, giving GreenPath a call, we can help you understand what the options are.
Okay, so I've kind of heard two terms like out in the world. So can you help me understand, like, what is the difference? Is there a difference between like credit counseling and debt counseling? Like, I hear these words kind of thrown about, but like, really, what's going on there?
Yeah, I would say they're generally the same. I guess it depends on if you do or you don't have debt. So maybe you want to talk about debt and how to get rid of debt and how to get out of debt. So that might be the debt counseling. Or if you wanted to learn about your credit report and your score, or how to improve your credit report and score, or maybe you are fresh out of high school, you're 18, maybe you're still in high school. You want to learn how to create and build healthy credit for yourself. You're just starting out. So that's the way I kind of think of it, is if you already owe some money, maybe you need some help with the debt. Or if you're learning about credit and credit reports and scores, maybe that's the credit counseling.
And
GreenPath does either or both.
that's what I was going to ask. I was like, do y'all do both? Like, what?
Yes.
You do both. So that is amazing and helpful. And thank you so much. And since we are kind of talking about like services that you guys offer, so how much does it cost? Like if somebody wanted to get some counseling with you guys?
There's no cost to call GreenPath. There's no cost. There's no obligation to do anything else. We are literally here just to talk to you. We want to provide that information, that education. We want to help you get to a better understanding for wherever you are and whatever your goals are. We're going to help you to build that financial wellness, that path, right? So when you think of green, you think of money. And so GreenPath, we're the path to the money or the solutions to pay off debt, to build credit, what have you. So yeah, there's no cost to call GreenPath. We do have some additional specialized services that may have some fees, but the conversation with GreenPath is always free. And if you need, want, or have to have one of these specialized services, we're always going to let you know upfront what the costs are and how you can then take that next step forward if you choose, if you want to do one of those specialized services.
I love that. Money is green and here's a path to green and I love that green path. That is fantastic. And I love that it's free. So I think I'm going to mention that like lots of times here, because not often is it free to get help from professionals, right? There's cost a lot of times, an hourly cost or something like that, just to even talk to somebody. And you're saying that it's free to talk to somebody about your plan and helping you set yourself up for your future and just being better financially. I love this like so much.
Yeah, and that's because we get to make it free because of the partnership with AltaOne Credit Union. Like you said, the best credit union in Southern California. So because of our partnership, we're able to help your employees, your members, your employees' friends and family, and even your prospective members, right? So if somebody's coming to apply for a loan at AltaOne and they don't have a deposit account or not, we can even help those prospective members. One of our favorite things to do is to talk to those people who unfortunately were denied for a loan. So we want to turn that no into a not right now. Everybody has to work on their credit. Everybody has debt. You have debts and collections, whatever it might be that you have to work on so we can help you get approved for the loan in the future. That's where GreenPath can help be that partner to help you get the loan that you need. Maybe it's a new car loan, it's a consolidation loan, it's a credit card. And so it's really difficult to hear that no when you walk into the credit union. You're like, okay, I need this loan. This is going to help me do X, Y, and Z. And then you hear a no and you're like, oh, now what? So if we can turn that no around and say, not right now, but we can do these things. Now that person is leaving your branch feeling much more empowered and they have a plan. They can talk to us and help. We'll help to develop that plan for them.
That is fantastic. And I know that's tough for people to hear, that no, you've been turned down for a loan, right? And so I love
Yeah.
the idea of turning that no into not right now, and then working on those steps to help make it a yes next time.
Right.
So a lot of times I would imagine, when you're talking about being turned down and no's and things like that, and we also serve a lot of rural communities, so very close-knit communities. So sometimes I think maybe people are fearful to talk about their finances, or there's some kind of emotional issue that's holding them back from sharing that information. So really, what about y'all's confidentiality? Like, you're not like, are you calling, how does that work? Somebody calls you guys, and then what happens there?
Yeah, great question. And absolutely, we talk to clients every day who tell us they're scared, they're nervous, they're worried, and they don't want to talk to their credit card company, their mortgage company. Maybe they already have fallen behind, and you don't want to admit that to the mortgage company or the credit card company or anything else you can insert. So we are a national nonprofit organization. We are not a creditor. We are a nonprofit organization, and we do the counseling, the coaching, if you will. We're here to listen and to help and understand what your options are. And we can also be the bridge and actually get on the phone with your creditor, with you on the phone, and say, hey, Stephanie, I'm so glad you called. We'll call the credit union, AltaOne, and let them know Stephanie's having some issues. She had to change her income, lost her job, death in the family, getting married, getting divorced, whatever it might be. What are some options for some help? And we can be that bridge to get that conversation started because people are scared. Now, I do want to say we're here to help you, but also don't be scared to call your creditors. If they know that you're having some struggles, they may have some options or some workout plans to help you get back on track. So it's okay to call your creditors. It's okay to let them know that you're having a struggle or a hardship. And then when you do call GreenPath, it is 100% free. It is 100% confidential. There's no one that we report to. We don't go back and tell your credit union, your mortgage company, your service provider, your bank that you called and say, oh, yeah, they asked this and they said that and they're doing this. No, this is for you and your information, your education. Again, it's free and it's confidential.
Free and confidential, that is the best, right? So I hopefully that being free removes a roadblock from people choosing to make the decision to go and actively work on their finances, right? I'm going to work on it. It's free. I can do it. I'm roadblock removed, but then also that it's confidential. So there's that pressure, that relief of having that ability to speak to somebody, no judgment, confidential. So free and confidential, that is a really good piece. I think that's almost integral in having an open dialogue, right?
Absolutely.
About personal finances. Awesome.
And then the financial wellness experts is what we call them internally. If you want to think about a coach or a counselor, they're all certified as well by the National Foundation for Credit Counseling and also for HUD, so the Urban Housing and Urban Development from the government. So we can provide housing counseling, credit and debt counseling, as we already mentioned. And we can also provide student loan counseling. So we have some specialized trained counselors for all of the changes and the student loans that are coming up. So if you do have federal student loans that are coming due, now is the time to call and talk to us to get prepared for when those student loans resume. So supposedly it's going to actually happen in fall 2023. We'll see. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball. So if you do have some student loans and you have questions, we're a great place to start. Again, it's okay to call your student loan service provider. But if you have some of that stress or fear, practice that conversation with GreenPath. Again, it's free, it's confidential, it's a safe space. And we'll give you the information that we have and provide you with the right questions to ask your servicer when you're ready to make that call. And then we can talk about that budget. We can help understand what your current spending plan is to help you fit those new student loan payments, the resumed student loan payments back into your budget so you don't fall behind on the student loans or the other things that you're paying for in life right now.
I love that. That's perfect. Okay. So earlier, we were talking about like turning that no into a not right now. And I know that if you go into get a loan, sometimes there's different words bandied about. And one of them that sometimes equals to a no is if the loan officer is talking to somebody about like their debt to income ratio. Mm-hmm. And so I just want everybody to know, like, that debt to income ratio, it's one of those key metrics that financial institutions look at, but I really feel like it's one of those key financial health indicators. And really, and you all can do this at home if you're just interested in it. You can determine your debt to income ratio by just taking the total of all your monthly expenditures and dividing that by the total of your monthly income. So for instance, like if your bills are $5,000 a month and you make $7,500 a month, then your debt to income is 66%, which probably means that you're also maybe in need of a phone call to GreenPath or someone to get some maybe financial health, because it isn't just about getting to the point where you all are not just there for somebody that's debating between bankruptcy or not. I mean, it's more than that, right? So you have the ability to help people, don't y'all? Advise them and really kind of manage their debt to income and kind of look at, and just as a side note, all y'all, kind of the maximum debt to income, if you're looking at getting a mortgage, because I know everybody wants to own their own home. That's a dream for a lot of people. Really kind of the industry standard on that is that ratio can't be higher than 43%, right? So if you're doing your math and you were at that 66%, you know, you probably have some work to do, getting a plan, getting on that green path to that future that you want, to kind of get that ratio much lower. And I think even in general, most financial advisors, y'all normally recommend something even lower, keeping your debt to income even like lower than 43%. That's really like the ceiling there.
Yeah. So we're, just to make sure, yes, we are certified financial coaches or counselors, but we're not financial advisors. So a little bit different as far as financial advisor. I think of somebody who's talking about investments, and we can't talk about investments because we don't have those licenses here at GreenPath. So just a little bit of a difference there. But yes, absolutely, we want to talk to you and compare that income to those expenses and help you to have a balanced budget. And I know sometimes budget is one of those dirty words that people don't like to talk about, right? Because it's another scary thing. I don't know how to work a budget. I don't know where to start. So we don't start and we just ignore it and we pay the bills when they come in. But we really want to talk to you about how to create a spending plan. We relate it to travel. If you're going to travel, if you're going to go on vacation, even a road trip, you usually have to plan. When are you leaving? Where are you going? What roads have construction on them? And figure out your detours, right? So we want to relate that the same type of thing. We don't call it a budget, we call it a spending plan. Where am I going to spend the money? How am I going to earn the money? And what am I going to plan? And then when there is construction or when there is a accident and you have to take a detour, you have that plan in place so you're not having to have such a big emergency or, oh my gosh, what do I do situation. So if we call it a spending plan where we track and understand what the expenses are going out, what the money is coming in, when do those each align with each other? So we sometimes talk about paycheck planning. And then we can talk about how we can help you to reduce that debt. We can talk about options to increase that income. So that changes that debt to income ratio. But then we also want to talk about savings. If your dream is to buy a home, buying a home is awesome. It's amazing. It's also not just about the monthly mortgage payment. When you talk to a loan officer, it's that monthly mortgage payment that they're adding into your debt to income ratio. But then you have to think about the taxes and the insurance and the maintenance on the home, because the first thing I can guarantee you when you buy a home, something you have to replace. Whether you have to replace it or you want to replace it, there's something that you're going to have to spend the minute you move in. Maybe you don't like the paint, you don't like the carpet, maybe an appliance breaks. So where does that money come from? So we want to talk to you about not only that debt to income ratio, but your security blanket. How do we keep your debt to income ratio on track so you can get approved for the mortgage? But after you get the mortgage, how do we also build a savings into that budget or that spending plan to make sure that you can afford those things that need to be replaced when they need to be replaced? Because that's the one guarantee about owning a home. There's always something that needs to be done.
I love that. Spending plan, not a budget. It sounds better too. Right?
Yeah.
I'm making a plan to spend my money. That sounds so much better than budget. I don't know why, but budget just feels like,
Yeah.
Budget, but spending plan. Okay, I'm gonna make a plan to spend my money. That's thoughtful spending of your money. I love it.
Yeah, and I'll use the word counseling, because that is what we do and that's what we talk about. But I really love and I really want to use the word coaching instead. When you think about if you played sports in high school, what was your coach there for? They were to teach the game. They were to motivate you. They were there to inspire you. They were there to lift you up. They're going to teach you the teamwork, whatever team, whatever sport you were playing. And so I feel like coaching, like that's that inspiration and motivational feeling. Sometimes when people hear counseling, they hear, oh, or I can't do it on my own, or I need help. And so sometimes I don't want to talk about it, right? And so sometimes counseling, it just has a different feeling. So I love to say that we're going to be in your corner. We're going to be your financial coaches. And we're just here to have a conversation with you. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter if you're having a hardship or you had a life change, like a marriage, you're having a baby, you're graduating from high school or college, you're leaving the military, you're going to the military, you're retiring. These are all things to celebrate, but it changes your spending plan. So let's have a coach teach you, help you, and motivate you on how to make those changes so you're not falling behind in one area or the other.
I love that, especially since we were talking about earlier, unsecured debt really is just on the rise. When we were thinking about that, I think in the prior 12 months, it has gone up like $130 billion. That is just staggering. And it's mostly in this credit card debt. We're seeing a lot of credit card debt. People had these available balances and now they're just eating away at them, and the debt on them is just sitting there. And so I think having this coach, right, to help you with the spending plan is probably something that would be really helpful for a lot of people. Do you have people that just call in and say, hey, I've got all this credit card debt, and I don't really know what to do? Is that what are y'all normally getting calls about, I guess, is what I'm wondering.
Yeah, the majority of the calls that we get is to handle unsecured debt. So typically going to be the credit card debt is the majority of it, but unsecured debt could include collections or charge-off accounts. Sometimes we're getting calls about someone who did a voluntary repossession on their vehicle loan. And so let's say, for example, if you turn in your car back to the lender, you owe $10,000 on that loan. You voluntarily repossess it. The credit union takes it back. They sell it at auction for $5,000. Well, what happens to the other $5,000? You still owe that, even though you don't have the vehicle. So now there's $5,000 on your credit report. So we can do those type of we put that type of debt on a debt management plan. Sometimes we can do payday loans. Sometimes we can do personal loans. The majority of the time we can do medical debt. So it's going to be credit cards, unsecured debt, medical debt, debts and collections, debts and charge off, and then once in a while payday loans and personal loans.
Yeah, you said the thing about voluntary repossessions, and we have actually, so I went and looked, I asked, we have actually seen voluntary repossessions increase, and it really started at the end of last year. And so that has been going up, and you're 100% right. That deficiency balance, that remainder that is between the loan and then what the vehicle is sold for, because most financial institutions are going to sell the vehicle at auction because we're financial institutions. We don't run auto, you're
not a car dealership.
We're not a car dealer. We'll have a car dealership out back. So we don't have the same. So really, you're right. So, and then people still are liable for that difference between, what was sold at auction and then what's on the loan. That difference there, they're still going to be responsible for. And so I think that that's a good point of saying, like, before you just even get to the point where you're doing things like that, voluntary, like choosing to turn over the vehicle because you feel like I don't have another choice. That is also, again, there are other choices. I think this conversation is great because a lot of people probably don't know that they have options. So you live life kind of like this. And I hope in through this conversation that we let people know that, like, you do have options. Like, we can remove those blinders and you can see that there are more options. So you don't have to feel like I have to do this. There's no other choice. But I will take a second really quickly to remind people that are watching live, you can ask questions in the Q&A. So if you go down to the Q&A and you want to type a question in there, we do get those. And so we can answer them if you have one. So I always want to I meant to mention that at the top. I tried to do that at the top, but I forgot this time. So if you have a question that you would like to ask Jessie with all her expertise knowledge, you can put that in the question and answer, and we will try to get that to you, answer for you.
Thank you.
So
yeah, so right back to that deficiency balance, the auto voluntary repossession for your auto. I think that's a new thing. I don't know that I've heard of that in the past where there was a lot of people doing that. And I wonder if that is because, even though through the pandemic, a lot of people were struggling, there was a lot of free money flowing. There was a stimulus package, the child care credit, loans were skip-a-pay, deferred, forbearance for these federal student loans, things like that. So I think people got into a point where like, okay, I have some extra money. I've always wanted this new car. I'm going to go ahead and get this new car. And now that money turned off and they don't have this extra money. And so there's some struggle and there's some juggles to figure out like, what do I do with my spending plan? I have this much. Well, I can't afford this new car anymore. I would encourage you to give GreenPath a call if that is something that you're looking at. And we can again take a look at your current situation, your credit report, understand what your goals are, and help give you that pros and cons and understand all of your options so you can make the best decision, best choice for yourself. What Stephanie needs to do is different than what I need to do. And anybody listening, your situation might be different than both of us. But having a safe place to have a conversation and just to learn what it is that you have the options, maybe that is the best option. But we want to understand now how to create a plan for you to pay that deficiency balance.
Yeah. Well, and then you think about it too, because you voluntarily given the car back, but now you're still paying on that deficiency balance and you don't have a vehicle.
Right.
So yeah. So I think that like reaching out to somebody to help you kind of analyze your decisions would probably be really helpful. And cars, you were talking about reasons why maybe that's going up. And I was thinking about it too. The average loan, like we saw the average loans increase from about 17,000 back in 2019 to 24,000 in 2022. Like just vehicles were getting more expensive. So that also might be part of that reason why you're having these deficiency balances too, because all the vehicles were just more expensive and it just
loan amounts went up.
Right. Because in general, we've seen we're kind of at an all-time high on auto loan debt. So yeah, that's just been part of what's been happening over the recent years. So it might be a situation that others end up facing as we go along. So you said something earlier on, which is like a different thing. You were talking about, and I'm new to this, so I did learn about this, the debt management plans. I want to take a second to talk about that because I think that it is so unique and probably something that would be very helpful for lots of people who don't know that this option even exists. So can you tell me what is the debt management plan and a little bit more about that? You mentioned earlier that you work with creditors, but really like what creditors and what does that all mean?
Absolutely. So when talking about different education that can be added onto the conversations that we have at GreenPath, as we mentioned, one of the options is to pay off debt. And we'll get a ton of calls about paying off debt, and we can talk about all the different options, as I mentioned, a consolidation loan, a hardship program, settlement, debt management plan. But the thing that we specialize in at GreenPath is a debt management plan. And a debt management plan is a repayment plan. This is important to hear. Repayment plan designed to help people pay their debt in full in a more manageable way, which we hope will help them to reach any other financial goals, including paying off debt faster. And our debt management plan, we can usually pay off in full in a 3 to 5 year period. So in general, this shorter repayment time frame is achieved typically through negotiating debt terms with creditors, such as getting lower interest rates, maybe waiving late fees, and possibly marking past due accounts current once the creditor has accepted a proposal from GreenPath. Now, I do want to make sure that we understand the vocabulary. A debt management plan is different than a debt consolidation loan. for a couple different reasons. One is GreenPath does not loan money because GreenPath is not a lender. Rather, we're going to help to manage and facilitate monthly payments. And also because GreenPath is not a lender, we do not report to the credit bureaus. So a debt consolidation loan is getting a new loan that you would take all of your credit cards or all of your unsecured debt, take those balances and roll it into a new loan with hopefully a lower interest rate and a lower monthly minimum payment. GreenPath, we're going to take all of these creditors, the credit cards, the unsecured debt, they're going to stay with these creditors. And what we're going to do is help to manage the monthly payments to pay them each month. The other thing I'd like to just to clarify is a GreenPath debt management plan. We do not negotiate the debt balances. So therefore, we are not the same as a debt settlement or a debt relief. Our repayment terms are negotiated. Like I mentioned, the interest rates might be lowered, the fees might be waived, but we pay the balances in full. And so let's say this total of your debt is $10,000. We're going to pay the total of $10,000 back to all of these creditors. What we do is get better interest rates and better terms so we can do it, pay it off faster. And then what you'll do then is make your payments to GreenPath. And then we're going to then in turn help you to manage those payments. You pay GreenPath and we make the payments each month, every month to each of the individual creditors. Now, most of the time, this is for credit card debt, and that's where we can get the lower interest rates and the lower monthly minimum payments. But as I mentioned, the debt management plan can be used for any unsecured debt like medical bills, personal loans, debts in collections, charge-offs. And so this is also a plan that might be able to help if you did go in and look for a consolidation loan you got denied because of that debt to income ratio. This is something that can help to consolidate the payments for you and hopefully still give you that same relief by lowering that monthly minimum payment and lowering those interest rates so we can make a plan to pay that off faster for you.
I love that. So y'all go out and actually like help. So you try to work with creditors, try to say like, hey, there's a lot of fees on here. We're going to start repaying. Can you remove these fees so that you're not wasting, so that the money is actually going to remove
principal balance.
Yeah, the principal balance, not just going toward fees, which is amazing because a lot of people do spend a good deal of money just paying the fees, the late fees and the penalties and things like that. And that's not actually lowering your balance at all.
Right.
So working with that. And then also, I guess, working with those creditors to maybe help lower that interest rate, because it's also in the creditor's benefit to get repaid. I mean, we lend money with the expectation that that money will come back, and then we will turn around and lend it to somebody else, and then they will pay back. And it's just a cycle. So when it's also in our benefit to have payments coming in, you know, we don't want your cars. I don't know if people know that. Like, y'all, we don't actually want your things. So we want you to keep them, your cars and credit card, whatever you're buying. Like, we want you to have those things.
Yeah.
And so we just want you to be able to pay us back for them. Like when you borrowed it, like somebody, like your neighbor, you borrow something, we do want you to give that back. That's the same kind of, especially us, we're a credit union. So I don't think people understand that the money that we are actually lending is just all the other members' money, right? So everybody throws $5 in the middle of the pot, and then somebody takes a turn borrowing money, and then they put it back in the pot. Money's back in the pot. We lend it to somebody else. They repay it, put it back in the pot. And that's how we operate. So it's really important for credit unions, definitely for us, that we work with it. So I understand that. I can see creditors be willing to negotiate that interest rate to help you make those payments back. It's good for you. It's good for us. So I love that you go in there and do that. And I thank you for clarifying that this is not some kind of debt settlement plan or a consolidation loan or anything like that. This is you just working. You work with the individual to help them take care of the obligations that they already have.
Exactly.
Not create a new obligation.
Exactly. And since we've been in business for 62 years, we're going to celebrate our 62nd anniversary next month. Because we've been doing this for such a long time, we have those trusted relationships with the most of the major big creditors, right? So AltaOne Credit Union, yes, we're partners, we work with you, but we're talking about the big banks, the big credit card companies, the store credit cards, right? where they know and trust GreenPath that we're going to get their principal balance back. So they don't mind taking a haircut and reducing that interest rate, because they know if they have a $10,000 balance, they're going to get the $10,000 balance. Instead of 10,500 with interest, obviously that's not the right amount, but for math, just an example, instead of the $500 in interest, they get $250 in interest. Okay, give me that 10,000 and they're happy.
Yes.
So the biggest difference with GreenPath is we pay that principal balance and we communicate with the creditors. I'm talking about a debt management plan, and I always like to talk about the vocabulary difference. We're a nonprofit organization. We do advertise, we do promote, but we don't have the same dollar amounts that settlement companies do, because they are for profit. So you're going to see and hear settlement or debt relief companies talking about maybe debt management or debt relief. It's not the same thing. So please, please, please be cautious. Make sure you understand who you're talking to and what actually the plan is. When I was a counselor, I was talking to people to do the debt management plan, and my favorite person to talk to was somebody who already started a settlement, and we were able to get them on a debt management plan and then help them improve their credit over the long term, because a settlement is going to be something that's negatively impacting your credit score, your credit report, for 7 to 10 years after the settlement is done. It takes you maybe 3 to 5 years to get the settlement done. Then it affects you for another 7 to 10 years. With GreenPath, the debt management plan should take us 3 to 5 years, same time frame to get it done, but you're going to have a much more positive impact, a much more better score after those 3 to 5 years. So you're going to have a good place after the 3 to 5 years you graduate. It's going to be a positive impact on your credit score. So yeah, please be careful with the vocabulary.
That's good to know about the credit score, because that is also, and people, credit score affects so many things people don't even know about. I mean, it's not just your loan. There's all the things on the back end. You go to a cell phone, like all sorts of other things on the back end. Insurance, exactly. Your insurance, rent, maybe your landlord might be checking your credit score. I mean, there's just so many things. So it is really important to try to keep that as healthy as possible. And so repaying this and not having all those charge-offs or those collections or the settlements that show, because they'll show up on your, we settled for less, that all that will show up on your credit report. So this is some good advice. I really appreciate that.
So yeah, at the end of the GreenPath plan, your debt will be showing up as paid in full, PIF, paid in full. And that's the good thing. That's what creditors want to see on your credit report. They don't mind that it was closed. They don't mind that it was late 60 months ago, right? It's that it's paid in full now, and that's going to be the good thing for the long term.
I like that. All right. So you talk about being a coach and a counselor, and I love that. And I think like it takes a big heart to want to be in this industry and helping others. We're so appreciative of people who want to help others or not for profit. This is fantastic. But you also have a story behind that, don't you? Would you mind sharing that story with us?
Yes, I do. And no, I don't mind sharing. It's one of my favorite things to share. So I'll take you way back. I was in college, and I might look pretty young, but I'm in my mid 40s. So I was in college, first time, obviously, moving out of my parents' house, living on my own, went to Michigan State University here in Michigan. Big school, 18 years old. I don't know what's going on. So I get an application for a credit card. Somebody says, I'll give you a free pizza. I'll give you a free t-shirt. Sweet, fill it out. Get a credit card in the mail. Then I go do what college students do and go spend money, because I have this credit card in my pocket, which now turned into 5, 10 different credit cards. So fast forward many years later, I'm finally graduating from college, and I'm wondering, what am I going to do? What's next? I don't have a job lined up, but I'm leaving school. I don't know where I'm going to live. I don't know what I'm going to do. I have student loans that were more than $35,000 when I graduated. And I also have $35,000 in credit card debt, because I took all of those credit cards and spent all of the limits, maxed them out. And so without a job, I thought my only option was to file for bankruptcy. So I went to see a lawyer, and the lawyer tells me I qualify for bankruptcy. And the first thing I need to do to qualify for bankruptcy is I need to stop paying my credit cards. Okay, that doesn't sound right, but what do I know? I I didn't know any different at the time. So I stopped paying my credit cards. I'm 90 days, 3 months past due on payments. I've stopped. I haven't answered my phone in 3 months. I haven't gotten my mail in 3 months. I'm just, head in the sand. I'm ignoring everyone and everything because that's what the lawyer told me to do. Well, I was going to school for Spanish. And so my last year before I graduated, I did 2 study abroad programs. So I was going to be leaving the country for a year. And I thought that was the other thing. Bankruptcy would take care of it. I'd leave the country and I'm all set. I'm all done. Well, the week before I'm leaving, somebody tells me about GreenPath. And so I walked into GreenPath the week before I'm leaving, and they tell me what we can do, how we can do it, and how it's better than bankruptcy. They're going to manage everything for me. They're going to pay my monthly credit card payments to all of my creditors, to all of my credit card companies, and we're going to pay it off in full. Okay, that sounds better than bankruptcy. They tell me the same thing I just told you. It's going to improve my credit score after a while. Because I came into this 90 days, my credit score was already not good. I already sank it. So I started the debt management plan right before I graduated college. I paid off all of my debt, $35,000. I paid it off in full. And it was much better for me in the long term than filing for bankruptcy. Had I filed for bankruptcy when I was 22 before I graduated, I would have never been able to start my career in banking at one of the big banks. So I was a personal banker and business banker, investment banker. I was an assistant to financial advisors for a while. I left the bank and started working in real estate. And then I left real estate because I couldn't handle if or when I was going to get paid. So when I left real estate and looked for that real paycheck again, I came and found GreenPath because I remembered how GreenPath had helped me in the past. But had I filed for bankruptcy, I wouldn't be able to start working at a bank. Had I not worked at the bank, I wouldn't have found the next job that led to the next job that led to real estate. And so my life would have been totally different. So that's the short story. If you want to learn more, I actually do have GreenPath Real Stories. We do a podcast as well. So you can search for GreenPath Real Stories with $sign for the S, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and you can hear more about my story. I've done some podcasts with some other people, so those are out there if you search for my name. I love telling my story. I love sharing that because even if you've already started to think about bankruptcy, even if you've already started a settlement, which are not as great options as a debt management plan, we may be able to help you transition into a debt management plan instead of bankruptcy. Now, bankruptcy is a legal action in response to sometimes a legal action. So if you're doing that for a legal response, that might not be a good fit, but I absolutely think it's worth a call to see what are your options.
Gosh, I love that. So I hope people really understand that bankruptcy doesn't have to be the only option.
Yeah.
I think it's really important that people hear about that, and then that they can call y'all to talk about that. If they are thinking that, if they are feeling like that is their only option, then it's worth a call to you guys so that they can see about other opportunities. Like I said, remove the blinders. There's so many more options. You do not have to feel like there's the only one. And I think that bankruptcy is just so talked about, and it gets, that's the one that's publicized a lot and everybody talks about that. So it just seems to be that people might feel like that's the next step, and it really does not have to be. So I appreciate you.
We hope it doesn't have to be.
Yes, we hope it doesn't have to be, because you're right. That bankruptcy, that lives on there for a while, right? And then it's not just that it's affecting your credit score. It could affect your employment too. So how you're saying, like, your employer might be one that does look and pull your background. And I know we look at people's backgrounds too.
Yeah, if you're in the financial industry, you're going to get a credit check pull. You're going to get a background check if you work at a bank, right? They've got to fingerprint you. You can't take the money home. Just doesn't work that way. The bank or credit union, either one, because I worked at a bank. So yeah, and depending on what other industry you work in, I know TSA, the military, they have rules that if you have so much in unpaid debt, so debts in collections or debts that are charged off, you can't get the job or you can't get the security clearance that you need in the military. So we talked to a lot of military people and started debt management plans so you can get and or keep your clearance. So yeah, there's different places that have different requirements.
That is good to know. So I hope people think about that, because you still need that income, right? And you don't want to put something, a roadblock, to keep you from getting that promotion or that next job or something like that when you're already struggling financially, and that next job or that next income could be really beneficial for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's great. All right. And you did say that, so AltaOne does, in disclosure, right? Lots of disclosures. We do partner with GreenPath. So we try to work with you guys as much as possible. And so I want to give you a shout out to, you mentioned it, that y'all also have your own podcast that you do. And then we also try to promote all of the other financial education webinars that you offer, because y'all are very regular with offering them. And so we do put those out on our Facebook page, and we have them on our website to try to encourage our members to also get that information. But they can also just go to the website too. Y'all have a website. We have a website together.
Yeah, let me share my screen and I'll show you a couple of those things that we were talking about here on the we just call it a co-branded website. So it's got GreenPath and AltaOne on here. So greenpath.com/Alta-1. And this is right here. You can learn about GreenPath. Scroll down right here on the front page. You can learn about our financial coaching services. So whenever you see counseling, you can read coaching. You can learn a little bit about those upcoming webinars. As Stephanie mentioned, we do have a monthly educational webinar. So you can come to those. There's no cost. They're also recorded, so you can listen to them on demand. If we keep scrolling down, there's also additional free financial resources, calculators, worksheets, guides, online courses. This is where you can learn a little bit about our podcast, different things to do, different articles. And then if you keep going down, you can hear other real GreenPath client stories, and you can learn about what their situation was. You see Tanisha, Noah, and Michelle. And maybe you're considering calling GreenPath after hearing this conversation today, but maybe you want to hear about somebody else's story first. Maybe you connect with Tanisha and Noah because she was a single mom and you were in that same same situation. Oh, if she can do it, I can do it. And then I think there's so frequently asked questions. Of course, there's always that kind of good stuff here right at the bottom. If we take a look at Learning Lab Plus, which I already opened over here, Learning Lab Plus is our online free educational 24/7. You can take a bunch of different courses. You can see some of the popular courses. And so you can take and get free access to all of these courses as well. I mentioned earlier that we do have the Real Stories podcast. So this is the Real Stories podcast. I already opened that up. And you can come and take a look at my episode if you wanted to listen to that and hear a little bit more about my story. So yeah, absolutely come here, take a look, greenpath.com/Alta-1. And then you see at the top of the page here too is our phone number, 877-337-3399. Give us a call. We're here to talk to you, find out what's going on for you and your situation, and help you to make that path forward.
And while you're also on this page too, I just want to point out that you guys do offer a lot of services also in Spanish. And so we actually serve a lot of our Hispanic members. We offer I-10 loans as well. And so I think that having that ability to also speak in their native language so that they're not having to use Google Translate or something like that is also fantastic. So you guys do have counselors and coaches that also speak Spanish as well. Isn't that correct?
Yes, we do offer immediate sessions of both English and Spanish during regular business hours. So that's somebody that we have on staff that speaks Spanish. And then we also use telelanguage interpretation services. So if English or Spanish is not your primary language, we'll get an interpreter on the phone and help you to understand in your primary language so that you can have confidence and feel comfortable understanding sometimes financial terms or Finances in general sometimes are difficult to understand. You know, we talked about the difference between budget and spending plan, saving. So whatever it is, we have that. English and Spanish is available immediately. Telelanguage interpretation services for more than 300 languages. Most of the time that's going to be available immediately. Sometimes to get the right translator, we might need to schedule an appointment for you.
Speaking of, so you're saying people can call that number just right away, or they can also schedule an appointment so that it's convenient for them because maybe they're working hours or something like that. So really both those options are available.
Both of those options are available. The phone number right here is on the screen, 877. You can give us a call right away, or you could even fill out a form and request that GreenPath give you a call. So this might be a great tool for you that if you happen to be stressed and you can't sleep, right? So now 2 a.m., GreenPath isn't open, the credit union's not open, but you're on the credit union website, you find GreenPath, we're not here, you want to talk to us, you can fill out the form and know that we're going to give you a call in the morning. Now you've taken some action. Now you can get back to sleep. You know that you're going to talk to somebody. You're going to get some help. And so that might be a good a tool for somebody. And then if you know that you only have 5 minutes more on your lunch break and you happen to find out about GreenPath, give us a call, but we can schedule an appointment for later. Most of the time, when you give us a call, though, we're ready and able to talk to you, and we can talk to you right now.
I love that. And so, yeah, we actually do have y'all on our website as well. So if you're at the AltaOne website, you can just go to resources.
Just click on the logo.
Yeah, go to resources. It's fantastic. And right there under financial wellness, you will find all of the things that we have to offer you guys. So GreenPath is the first thing under our financial wellness. So you can see it. It's right there. GreenPath Financial Wellness. We've got your learning labs, your financial counseling, the debt management plan, which I am such a big fan of. And so we just love everything that y'all are doing. We got some of y'all's videos out there. We do have some other stuff internally, like a Zogo financial literacy app. If you guys want to, if it is 2 a.m. and you want to play around and learning on your app, it's very interactive. You can download that and play that. And actually we actually encourage, because we want all of our members to live the best financial life that they can live. Right. Absolutely. So actually, when you do play our Zogo financial app, we actually pay you. The more points you earn, they're pineapples. The more pineapples you earn by answering questions correctly, you can trade those in for gift cards. So, learn to earn. There you go. So learn to earn. The more you learn, the more you earn. And we are a big fan of that. And that's also why we partnered with y'all at GreenPath, because we just think that you're a phenomenal company. And, we really want our members to have as much access to financial education and knowledge, because like we talked about earlier, sometimes you have, you're feeling insecure or whatever. And so maybe you don't want to sit in front of one of our staff and have that conversation. We do keep it confidential too, but sometimes it's a little easier to have that conversation on the phone with somebody you don't know. And we understand that. And so that's why we love working with you guys. And so.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Yes. So I would just say, really in general, thank you, Jessie, for being here today and sharing your story and your knowledge and your passion, honestly, with us. Definitely appreciate all of that. And to everyone, just kind of keep in mind that overcoming financial difficulties, it requires, patience and discipline and a willingness sometimes to make those necessary changes in your financial habits, your lifestyle. But that's why it's important to consult with a financial expert here, our experienced financial professionals, our coaches, right? Like Jessie Garrison and all of the wonderful people at GreenPath Financial Wellness. Just, I say again, just remember it's 100% confidential. And, you guys do the general financial counseling, which I think is great. You don't have to wait until you're actually in a bind. You can call in advance and just kind of get some help with that spending plan. So we all have the money, and it's all about how we put a plan together and how we're going to spend it. So
Absolutely.
Isn't that great? Right. And then I'm never going to stop using the spending plan, truly. But y'all do that, but then you also do the credit counseling and the debt counseling. And those are, and that counseling is free. It's so important. I mentioned that, like, free, guys, it's free. So there's no roadblock. There's no barrier. It's confidential. It's free. No road barriers. Let's just do it. You just got to take the time to make that call. And so Yeah, I'm going to give you that shout out again on the phone number. It's 877-337-3399. So please, please, please call them. Tell them AltaOne sent you because we love you. We're sending you there because we love you. And we're looking out for you, really. And honestly, the most important thing, if anything you take away from this, is you don't have to do it alone. I think that's the main thing, right? So
Yes.
having that professional counselor who will listen respectfully and support you in reviewing your situation, it's not a judgment zone, right? It's a judgment-free zone. Gonna listen to you and really help you, work with you to make that path for financial freedom. I think that's going to be beneficial. Everyone's unique. Everyone's going to be unique. So it's not like, well, something that might have worked for a friend of yours is going to work for you, right? Everyone is unique, and your goals are different and your situations are different, and they can just be very beneficial in helping you overcome any of those financial difficulties, or helping you set up that spending plan, give you additional suggestions on services or options, really, to help you meet your goals. So just thank you, Jessie, for coming out and sharing your story with us. I think it was just fantastic, and I really, really appreciate it. And I want to thank you all for watching episode 3 of Financially Speaking, brought to you by AltaOne Federal Credit Union. I'm Stephanie Sievers, and financially speaking, I learned a lot today, and I hope you did too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.